biggest tinkler.
I got Hallmark movies on.
He's taking a tinkler.
Oh my goodness.
He's taking a tinkler.
It's like,
Sandy's Bakery had it, they had it on before.
Uh-huh.
Did you wash your hands?
yeah,
You got brushed out of there.
there's like 3 different chicks.
Video.
I remember classes, you had to make time.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're looking at bosses and
Yeah. Okay, let's get this going here.
Yeah.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Jamestown City Council work session to order for November 14th. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Sheldon.
Here.
Brackman.
Here.
Saruba. Here. Present. Faulkner.
Here.
Eklund. Here. Diversa.
Here.
Russell.
Here.
And President.
Here. At this time, is there anybody from the public that would like to speak? Please give your name and address and limit your remarks to 5 minutes.
There was others, as always. Tom Champ, 225 Bowen Street, Jamestown, New York. I've got a couple things I just want to bring forward. I did it earlier, but I think it's somewhat relevant, now that we're into the budgetary process for the city, and the budget is now in the hands of the city council. And the charter references some things, and I've always felt that a charter is something that needs to be followed. If it's not going to be followed, then it should be amended to, in order for it to be substantiated. For instance, this is what it says. This is your charter. This is our charter. The city council shall review with the mayor the executive operating budget and capital improvement program, and may change any items of the executive operation budget and capital improvement program. The changes shall be balanced and the total estimated expenditures do not exceed total estimated revenues. The council shall not amend any items related to the city debt. Appropriations required to be made by law or judgments against the city council shall file a report with the city clerk treasurer outlining any amendments to the executive operation budget and capital improvement program on or before November 10th of each year. Said amendments shall be immediately be delivered to the mayor for review. I know you all work hard, exceptionally hard, for this budget. But again, we have a charter that says amendments November 10th. Kim does a great job in what she does to get amendments on the floor. But accordingly to the charter, all these amendments should be in the hands by November 10th. Why is that important? Because it has a standard to be followed. If you want to change the standard, then change the date. And I would think for next year, you want to consider how that should work. Now, you've got a public hearing, and you'll probably have amendments after the public hearing, but then the public hearing doesn't reflect the amendments. So I guess I'm asking you to look at the charter again and kind of decide whether it's important where that date comes. Does it come after the public hearing? Does it come before the voting session? Can you actually, at the voting session, make an amendment to the floor? It's been done before, but again, it violates your charter. So that's one point. The other point tonight in front of you is a resolution or proposal land bank. I'm all for demolition, we all are. But what I think is important is that we have a renewal parcel development plan. That be written out so we know what's going to happen with the demolition sites. Those sites are critical to the city in terms of what's happening. Other cities have what they call accessory dwelling units. Smaller units can be built on site by either the owner next door or by someone else. Our requirements in our housing zoning don't allow us to build anything on our parcels. We can't do that. It's got to change. As I indicated before, the last population increase city of Jamestown was 1950. And what are we doing to attract people to come in here to live in the city? They can't just live in the same type of homes that have been in play for 100 years. we gotta build something new. So I'm asking, if you're gonna demolish, then you not have to renew. It can't be just a garden, it can't just be trees, it can't be say, okay, next door neighbor, you can have this for $1, but he does nothing with it. So the city's gotta have a renewal plan for these parcels. I think that's as important in the demolition process as we go into that phase, which is absolutely necessary. I'm not here, I don't care who does it, as long as it's done well and you have a plan to resurrect those parcels. I think that's extremely important in your future building. So accessory dwelling units, small profile houses built on slabs, all this stuff can be done, but you've got to change it so it can be done. It's important to do this. Otherwise, we got parcel after parcel after parcel with no value. I don't know if Crystal talked about this earlier, I wasn't here for a budget presentation, but I'm trying to bring it to the table now. So it's something you can talk about and something you can do. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here today who would like to address the council?
I have nothing.
All right. We'll move on to committees. Marie, did you have anything for council?
Because there was so much confusion and we had a number of housing items on the general finance that there was really no point to have a separate housing.
Then we'll move on to finance. Kim, you have a
Sure.
few things there.
Resolutions 1 and 2, remained because we were waiting for more information, which I think all of you, at least on resolution 1, designating $1 million in no sums in the American Rescue Plan Act, Healthy Communities and Neighborhood Funds for the purpose of the Land Bank Post-Pandemic Housing Initiative. You received your package of information from Crystal. She also distributed to you the demolition administration comparison worksheet. I will be honest, Crystal, I spent a little time on this, not as much as I'd like, but I'm gonna open this up to any other council members who may have questions right away. Or if Crystal, if you would like to explain anything, she gave 2 proposals for the land bank, just the demo and all of it. So I don't know if any of you had any particular questions based on the scheduling information she prepared.
I had a quick question. I don't know if it would be for Crystal or maybe Corporation Counsel. Is there going to be some sort of language or contract with the land bank spelling out exactly what's going to be done with this money?
Absolutely.
And they have to stick to these parameters?
Yep.
Is that going to be a legal document drawn up with the land bank?
Absolutely, yes.
Councilman Russell, every agency that receives ARPA fundings, we have a standard template contract that we use. It also has other additional requirements from the federal government. And then every contract has a scope of work that's included with it. And so that would include specifics for the scope of work.
Thank you.
So what are the hours for the contractor versus the part-time DOD?
Printed that one. Part-time DOD, so over 4 years would be 4,388 hours. Did not print the contractor one.
Okay.
But that was given to me as a lump sum, so I can ask for that breakdown. But it was given as a lump sum.
And this comparison worksheet for demolition only, just to be clear, we're not, we would be excluding the healthy housing rebate program, hands-on neighborhood program, and the technology platform.
Correct.
It's also in the original proposal.
Correct. I assume that you wanted to kind of see both of those.
Yes.
I know there's been some discussion about, and I brought up the last meeting, why don't we do this? Why give someone else $1 million? And you were frank and open and honest, and I appreciate your honesty. You said basically we're overwhelmed with about 16 programs right now that we're working on it, and I appreciate your honesty on that. If we were to take this task on ourselves and try to hire someone part-time or whatever, how difficult has it been to this point to find people part-time, whether it be for the DPW for snow plowing or even the gentleman's position next to you, or, would you like to speak on that? I know it's been a discussion, why don't we hire someone to run this program?
I mean, hiring in general, especially hiring someone who could pick up and run with this, I think would be certainly challenging. Somebody qualified, you know, we definitely want someone who has at least some kind of background in this sort of thing. I would anticipate it would not be an easy lift. I mean, it took us several months to find the rescue plan, American Rescue Plan grants manager. So, I mean, it could be several months before we can find someone.
What about sourcing it out to a private company or agency outside? I
Yeah.
know there's companies like Kingsview or whatever that they take houses down. What about sourcing that out to a private entity?
They do the labor part of demolition. I think the administration part is a little bit different ballgame. But again, the contractor portion is, I mean, it is shown there.
So are you saying it's not feasible to source the entire program, including the administration portion of it, out to a private agency, a private, local entity? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not, realistic, I guess.
Okay.
I think it's difficult time believing that the contractor who's doing the work would necessarily follow all the guidelines.
Correct.
They're really monitoring themselves.
Yeah.
Just knowing what experience I've had with a small building project where the contractor didn't follow the guidelines and they weren't.
It's kind of a self-conflict of
Yes,
interest.
yes, it is, and they're gonna try to cut corners if nobody's watching what they're doing, unfortunately. And it's
So-
not every contractor, but I'm afraid that's what.
So in light of that, can you send the estimate for the contractor out so people can see that?
Yep.
Please. Any other immediate questions?
Yeah, on the housing rebates program, is that total project $480,000 entirely for the city with $200,000 matching from Sheldon?
Yes.
And that has been guaranteed, or is that only if the $280,000 is provided from the city? I'm not quite sure that.
Yep, so the Sheldon Foundation has, allocated funding to the land bank. Sorry, I'm trying to find the page if that's on.
Well, I'm looking at the summary that I guess Gina probably gave
The
us.
printed one, okay.
It was the ARPA report, which said that $280,000 would assist first-time homebuyers, but then the funding, will be matched with $200 from the Sheldon Foundation if awarded, but I don't know if we provide $280, then Sheldon will get $200, or maybe if we do the $280, Sheldon might do the $200, I don't know. I'm not sure who the if awarded is, if we award the $280 or.
I believe the Sheldon, and I don't wanna say this wrong, I believe that one is if we approve funding for this program, that it will match. And it is to be all in Jamestown, so, also with the Sheldon Foundation.
Can we get clarification?
Yeah.
On any of
That's
those commitments that
accurate.
she has matching funding on, that we get that
Yep.
before.
I guess there was a possibility of matching funding to the state.
That is a possibility, it's not a guarantee, but with commitment from the city, it makes the likelihood higher.
It's 3 to 4 years. It wasn't a dollar for dollar match, it was a lot more.
Right.
Could that be extended to the city if we get the money to do the demolition, or is this just something the land bank had applied
It would be
for?
something the land bank would be applying for, and they would, administer the program.
for clarification, those questions, you're gonna send that out, or is this something that we're gonna be voting on?
If we get everybody's
Now,
buy-in
how
on it and a
people's-
plan, I mean, I guess it depends how the questions come back at, right? I mean, people get their questions answered, are they confident to vote on it, I guess, that's my question.
I would suggest that whatever questions that were brought up tonight, or that people continue to have, get those to Crystal as soon as possible so they can be answered. We've been sitting on all of these for quite a while now, and it's time to make a move and vote on these like in one way or another.
Okay, we'll move on to resolution number 2. Again, this was discussed in finance last year for the whole group because people have thrown at me multiple options. Leaving it at the $750, going down to, Ben said, no less than $500,000. So I guess what I'm looking for is what does this council want to do? Fund it in its entirety, reduce the fund, not fund it at all.
What was your logic then?
Okay, so, when we initially formulated the plan, 750 was kind of, we're gonna go out and just kind of whole hand, select nice properties, select some less nice properties, and kind of do as much as we could. I think the main difference you'd see from a cut of 750 down to 500 is we've already got a bunch of properties. That already includes some that are going to be projects. So at least for the foreseeable future, while we'll still look at acquiring properties to put into the program, we'll probably be a little bit more conservative in the scope of what we're looking at. So the one we're currently in the process of acquiring, the corner of Windsor and Van Buren, 523 Windsor, obviously want to move forward with because there's a good chance at turning a solid profit on it. If we can acquire that one in the 500 block of Charles, that's another one we obviously say yes to. So I think still with the 500, and we'll take anything in between 750 and 500, we'll be happy with anything. We just want to get this off the ground, get the money so we can at least winterize these houses and do some interior work prior to the growing season next year. But I think the real difference is just kind of initial scope. Once we get the program running and are turning profits on houses, we can start taking on additional projects to the one we already have. But it would just be a slightly more kind of a conservative approach to property acquisition until that program got rolled out a little bit more.
Well, with interest rates rising, I think the projection is that housing prices are cooling.
Yes, yes.
So actually, with, given that they're not jumping at the rate they were because of the mortgage rates, I'm guessing, and I would propose getting it down to 500,000 and going with that amount to start and see how we do with the project. And, obviously we might be able to do better on some of the projects that we were looking at putting in cost estimates for. But maybe now with the cooling, we might be able to get them more favorable terms, and see where we go. And then if it turns out that this project really takes off, we can revisit it.
Of course.
And fund more money, because what I'm getting, not that I totally support this idea, I think it does a lot of what Mr. Champ has talked about, is instead of just demolishing, we're actually revitalizing some homes and putting it back on the tax rolls at a better price, but also making homeowners responsible for repairs and bringing them up to code and doing everything right. I think what we're overlooking is that we're still dealing with, as many of my council members, homeowners and people right now who live in their homes and own them and still need help.
Yeah.
And so that has been the far cry in phone calls that I'm getting are, we need more support. We're taxpayers, we're struggling, we need help now. And so being mindful of that, I guess that's where I would land right now, is
That's fine.
getting this down some, but looking to maybe refund more in the future.
We will make it work.
The other thing
That's
is,
my opinion.
I just think it's dangerous to go below that with the number of properties we've already acquired.
we discussed in finance too, the senior housing program, and if we're gonna increase that, that kind of takes a little bit of pressure off the additional 500,000, if that's the direction the council wants to go, to add more money to that program. You're taking a little bit away from this one, but it kind of cuts that in half, the additional money that would be needed, so we'll discuss that
So the
further.
recommendation out of finance is a 500,000. I know other people have had some other ideas tossed at me, and we're okay with that 500,000 from those I've discussed with personally. I don't know if anybody else has any other issues.
We're happy to re-prepare the resolution for you all.
Please do.
I just had one other quick question, and Ben, I don't mean to put you on the spot. There was recently an article in the newspaper that talked about one of the concerns about was the sustainability of this program.
Yeah.
And from what I got out of the article, they kind of talked that it would just be like a money suck. You're gonna run out of money, whatever we give you, 500, 750. How is this going to be sustainable year after year and be able to continue to thrive?
Okay, so, part of the selection process prior to even initiating any of these was how can we achieve sustainability? And as part of that, we made sure that we've included in the portfolio of properties that we've gone after, ones that we've either been inside of and done full walkarounds on, so we know they don't have significant interior problems and just need 15, 20 grand of work maybe, that are going to be valued at $85,000, $90,000 on the back end. So I know of the ones that we've already acquired, the ones that are valued in the 75, 80 plus range are the one on Beach, Bolt on Barker, right around 70, 75. And Bolt on Barker are ones we've done interior inspections on, where the one's got a little bit of floor work that needs done and a new ceiling, and the other one just needs to be cleaned out of garbage. So I think the sustainability comes from finding the properties, like, and additionally the ones I mentioned tonight that we're going to continue looking at. This one on Charles, just guy got it from a dead friend, lives in Lakewood, doesn't have any utilities on, doesn't cut his grass, doesn't appear in court. It is now condemned. That gives us an open door. But now that it's condemned, we can, kind of inspect. And this house is in generally great shape on the exterior. So unless there's any big issues, that's when we can maybe put 10, 12, 15, and maybe break 100 on the back end. So it's all about selecting properties to pair with the ones that you're gonna have to sink some money in and be more at the break even, or maybe even a slight loss point, with ones that we can turn a significant profit on the back end, and using the funds for that to kind of sustain the program.
So if someone violates the terms of the agreement when they take on one of these houses, the house comes back to you?
Well, we obviously would have to go through a foreclosure process to make that happen, but yes, it would then come back to us.
Come back to us, and then we have to deal with possible.
We would obviously, at that point, have to probably evict them,
Right.
but then we could theoretically, we've got a house 3 years down the line that we put all this money into, hasn't been degraded significantly. We could theoretically, and we don't want this to happen, we prefer that everyone we put in one of these houses becomes a successful homeowner and a benefit to the neighborhood and the city as a whole. But you do have additional possibility of theoretically selling the same home twice in a 5-year span.
Right.
So,
I guess the concern that I've heard from some people, and I have a little bit myself, is the city getting into the contracting business and the city getting involved in the real estate business. Because when you break it down, that's what this kind of looks like, is we're becoming contractors and we're becoming real estate agents.
I mean, I guess that's something that I'm a little wary about myself, but I every time I have those concerns, I remind myself, with the properties we've already acquired, what are the features of these properties if we don't do what we're doing?
Sure.
Can I speak to that? Because I think the concern is that too many people who don't live here are buying these properties and not taking care of them, and then we end up with them anyway, or they become a problem and get demolished.
One way or the
We
other.
have to do something different, or we're gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again, and ending up with more and more homes. When I look at that demo list, it's heartbreaking to see all these properties that are going off the tax roll. We've gotta start changing it and bringing properties back on the tax roll. I understand what you're saying, because it does border on that, but it's preventing and protecting these neighborhoods from getting flippers to come in and do nothing and then end up with the properties in a far worse condition. I've seen it work in my neighborhood where 3 homes that was done to, and they've all gone back on the tax rolls with more property taxes. They're being taken care of because I think there was some screening process that was proposed as to who would take these homes. They are going to have to abide by many, many terms of taking care of it, classes, knowing how to be a good homeowner and what you need to do to take care of your property. So this isn't to just hand over the keys and we're done. This is a totally different process of trying to keep people intact in homes, in neighborhoods, and keep these properties back on the tax rolls.
Can I just add to that? The concern about being contractors, we already do projects where our home program is all homeowner rehab. We have a rental rehab, have had it in the past and are going to have it again. So that part of it, we already do that. So that itself is not anything new, and this program will be largely based on just that process.
Any other questions, comments? Resolution number 3 is also a carryover from last week because the Corporation Council had mentioned that he was trying to work on something on it before, and I just wanted to make sure we were clear. But so resolution number 3 is to enter an agreement with Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York for employee health insurance through December 31st of 2025. Both Corporation Council advised me that he is fine and comfortable to move forward, that it's an internal document for the health and wellness plan of the employees. So that was approved through finance. Resolution number 4, and that council, effective immediately, Jamestown City Council suspends the hiring freeze instituted by resolution number 200201C03. And is authorizing the filling of a following position due to the essential nature of the position, and that's one labor in the streets division, and it's vacant due to a resignation. That was approved. Resolution number 5 was a change order number 2 with Arcady Concrete Excavating of Jamestown for May Street 2022 change order. Wanted to note that this resolution, the bottom line for the total bid amount is incorrect. The total change is $6,391.03. So if you could correct that for the voting session, but that was approved through finance.
I'm sorry.
The total for a total bid amount, the bottom line, sentence is wrong. So that could get fixed for the voting session, but it was approved with the $6,391.
Sure you don't want to bring it up to 221,000 while we're at? We'll put it to good use, we promise.
We can just throw that in the 1980 program.
We'll make the change.
People on May Street are very happy. I've met a few of them who are very appreciative of the work that was done, especially in light of the major rain event on Friday.
I think our police chief would.
A couple of things I want to talk about that I know will be mentioned again, probably through the mayor's comments too, but city and council president, but reminder that we have the public hearing about the budget on Wednesday. But in light of that, I am asking all of you, you've heard every department now, you've heard every outside agency, you've heard everything that's on the table for the budget, the needs of things that are short by the department heads, the needs of things that they are comfortable with, and vice versa. I have fired a lot of questions at the comptroller, trying to do some deep dive analysis, but you guys all need to present any changes you have in mind. I'm asking that, obviously it's too late for the published hearing, but we need to nail this down for the voting session at the end of the month. So what I am asking you to do is that if you have any suggestions open for discussion, that you send that, obviously, we're not meeting again, therefore it needs to go in email to all council members. If you want to discuss something with just me because you want to understand something, I'm open to that too. But any proposed changes for discussion to all council members, the mayor, the controller, and the department head it involves. would be greatly appreciated. One thing I need from you, John, definitely, that I know has to come in front of us, is the canine handler salary. I need that change of what that increase is. That definitely needs to be fixed. There's no choice on that one because it's understated. There's some other things I'm sure we're all gonna throw around and people have their own ideas, but we need to have this discussion and it needs to happen soon. Okay? I have asked also the comptroller to provide you with an updated fund balance. I want you all to note that the budget, that the mayor executive budget is proposing to use $721,365. $250,000?
Sorry, we had a little confusion.
So, okay, so
I'll
what
send
you
it
gave
out
me
to
is wrong, so let's,
Well,
$250,000 the mayor is proposing
That's
to
better.
use of the current
Yeah.
fund balance.
Last, 750 was last year's.
Okay, so he's going to send that to
Sure.
us, updated of what's available. Obviously, keep in mind, we are very near and dear to our constitutional tax limit. And in light of that, we also got some information from the state controllers. We need to keep that in mind as we offer suggestions to add something to the mayor's executive budget, that more than likely we have to take it out somewhere else. So,
If you give it, you have to take it.
that's my 2 cents for what it's worth. I am happy, I know John is happy to review any questions you have with the budget, but I really would like to have each council member come up with something. Shouldn't fall on the finance committee or 1 or 2 council members.
One other thing that I brought up in finance, we mentioned the senior housing program. I'm sure we've all had a number of emails or calls about the program. To date, we have allocated 1 million. There was the opportunity to allocate another $500,000, and there were some options to either take it from the other home program and shift it over, because that program hasn't gotten off the ground yet, or to allocate another $500,000 to bring it up to $1.5 million to try to cover, I think there's 122
people.
other seniors who are met the eligible requirement, but we didn't have enough funds to go to a certain level. My suggestion tonight, I know I've talked to a couple of council people about it, is that if we're taking the 250 from the 19A program, that cuts that in half, and then you allocate another 250 from ARPA to bring the senior housing program up to 1.5 million, and then you still have the 500,000 for the other program, correct? Because I don't know how.
So in light of that, the controller did send an updated ARPA thing. There's one thing we need to do, is we need to send, there's a fee that was raised, $21,400. We need to get that voted on in front of council, that change. And the other thing is, if you could add this additional 500,000 and adjust the 19A home ownership for now, and resend that tomorrow, so we can all
So
see where
As
we're at.
proposed, yep.
So it'll be a 250
Yep.
rather than 500. Is everybody comfortable with that? I mean, I think that, we've been inundated with calls, and I think that's a very important program for
Station 4 roof replacement, John.
senior citizens, as well as the other program, which hasn't even got off the ground for other residents in the city to have. I think that was one of the key components that we heard last summer during the meetings that we had, the 4 meetings that we had, was getting that money into the hands of the residents and neighborhoods as much as we could. So, and again, I know that we've talked about, we've tried to move this stuff around. We've hit every single thing. We've hit public safety, we've hit housing, we've hit development, we have hit, just about every corner of the different categories to try to spread. I mean, 28 million sounds like a lot of money, but we could spend 28 million in one whole department. And we've bought equipment, we've hired manpower, we have, again, economic development, businesses, you name it. We've hit the gambit of it, and so we're just trying to. But I think it's important that program, there's still a lot of need out there. I know, Marie feels the same way, and I'm sure Jeff and some of the others
Yeah,
do.
I had a conversation with Tony, I'd like to leave that money over in that other program and fund the senior citizen program, an additional 500,000. And I agree with you that this council and this administration as a whole, is, I feel, have tried to be equitable in all of these areas and departments and in all of these programs. Like you said, I mean, we could have taken the whole shot and just thrown it all in neighborhoods. And I don't know if that would have been the correct thing to do. I think
We could spend that much and buy all the equipment that our
Yeah,
departments
I
need.
think we've done a fairly good job, and of course, you're always gonna have the naysayers, and you're gonna have the armchair quarterbacks, saying you should have done this, you should have done that, but, I think we've been equitable overall.
Is the council comfortable with us changing those resolutions then?
The 1 to 500?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
so
then-
we'll adjust the 19A, we'll adjust the home, reallocate the home one for 250 to the senior citizen housing one, and then
A new one for 250,000.
Yep, the new one for 250, yep.
So just take the 250 over the.
We'll work on that, we'll get that out to you.
Very good.
That should be it out of finance, I believe.
We'll move on to public safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. We brought back the local law number 1, 2022, authorizing the use of video conferencing for meetings of public bodies. Looked at it, it's pretty much, boilerplate, law here. Codified. We did approve that.
Councilman Sheldon, is there any further questions on that local law? I apologize, I wasn't here last week for.
I don't think so. The only question we have is if this would cover them or not.
It would cover all public bodies in the BPU.
Would cover the-
Yeah. So just as a reminder, it doesn't require streaming, but it does require streaming if video conferencing is used. So, and this does cover, there are some bodies that have still been using a portion of video conferencing. I think most of them are done now, but many of them, for example, the zoning board actually had better attendance when they did it remotely over Zoom than in person, just given the time frame. So this would allow certain bodies, if deemed admissible by the chair, to continue those remote meetings, as long as at least majority of the members are in one given location. It also allows any member, for example, the city council, if you are sick and you feel like you still want to be able to vote, that could be allowed. New laws, it was a new state law that now allows cities to adopt this.
Is that because you were out in the cold yesterday?
He's got the heated box.
Did you
Don't
hear
wanna
that?
talk about it.
You didn't hear me? I said that's because you were out playing in the cold yesterday. Losing in the cold.
By the way, we should give a shout out to the city that Ms. Meraldo walked from
He did.
Jamestown to Orchard Park to raise
Yes,
funds.
we did.
That was absolutely amazing. He is a real credit to our community, and that was just, they did a nice feature story on Channel 4.
Not only did he walk it, but it ran.
Oh, I know, he could not, he got one good Thursday, I think wasn't too bad, I don't know, but
We
the
didn't walk
rest of it was
Thursday.
No,
We
yeah.
walked Friday.
I saw him on Wednesday and Thursday when it was beautiful, and I said, you picked the wrong day.
The wrong game.
Yeah.
And speaking of Geraldo, we have a special event, the Jamestown Holiday Parade that is help sponsor. To be held on Saturday, December 3rd. Parade starting at 6 p.m. We close between 3 and 8:30. And there will be fireworks again as usual. One new thing we discussed and Councilman Russell brought up last year was having a section that is quieter for people who might be on the autism spectrum. And that is something that they're going to be doing. It's going to be between Lafayette Street and Washington Street. That less flashing lights and have them turn off some of the sirens, maybe not off their horns, and it's something that the organizers working with all the people who are gonna be in there, so we can do that, so everybody can enjoy the parade. That was approved. We did have a brief discussion on police and fire vehicle needs. Possibility of a police car replacement program. And we also want to note that all our 5 new firefighters graduated from the fire academy this past weekend, and they are now officially probies. Welcome to the city of Jamestown. That's all we have from public safety.
Very good. We'll move on to Randy, anything from Public Works?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The 2 resolutions that we had up were to look for hiring freeze to get a labor with the street division and for to execute the change order for the curb and gutter up on Main Street. And they were covered in finance and they were approved. And one of the things we did touch on was Washington Street project. As we know, it's not going to be completed or repaved by the winter, but yeah, anytime we can get the public to understand that that's going to be under state contract, and when it's under contract, the city does not patch that. Right, Jeff?
That's correct.
Yeah, so the,
And all the asphalt work they did around the intersections, sidewalks, that's all temporary, that will be concrete next year.
That was in relation to the notice of defect that we talked about a few weeks back.
yeah, and they may not jump on the, with the freezing temperatures in the water, there's bound to be some potholes popping out, and generally, we're at the mercy of the contractor during the winter months to patch it. They do come down with some prompting, and so it could be a point of contention if it goes that bad. Hopefully, it stays at least how it is with any luck. And we did look at the American Road patch that seems to be working out well, but that would not fall under and be applied to the Washington Street project. So everybody's just gonna have to bear with it. I know that we've all heard some complaints about it. Regina, it's her ward over there, and I'm sure she's heard some grumbling, but it is what it is. So.
Kind of bad timing with a new Tim Hortons going there.
Yeah.
Brand new
That'll be
business
something.
being built and opening up, and the roads gonna be a mess.
It's a shame that it didn't get done. Everybody's looking forward to it.
Well, I have to say, it's better than it was. The fact that they've actually improved the areas around crosswalks and curb cuts,
Yeah.
because it was terrible, and it was a really significant trip hazard for anyone, let
Yeah.
alone anyone with mobility issues.
With a
To
place.
try to get anywhere, they would have been forced to go into the streets, so. I appreciate the notice, because it's not great, but it's better.
Yeah.
We have to deal with it, at least it's manageable, where about 2 weeks ago, until anything was said, it was deplorable, and there was no getting around. There are a lot of people that walk down that street to get to Tops and other businesses in that area, and could not get through there, so I appreciate what little they've done.
It's at least buttered up, yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's better, it's manageable, we have to deal with it.
And that would be about it.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else before we turn it over to the mayor? If not, the floor is yours.
Great, you guys are taking all my good comments, I appreciate it. It's already talking about some of them, Washington Street was on my list, so thank you. Just a brief couple updates for you all. Number one, shelters. You may have seen some information about that. We've been working with various faith-based groups, medical providers, and resource partner organizations for homelessness. We are in the process and are waiting for final approval from the state for 2 shelters, which would be covered under the Code Blue program under New York State. That means is whenever the temperature gets below 32 degrees, then those individuals that are on the street are eligible for emergency sheltering just for that evening. They do have to leave the next morning. The 2 shelters that have been identified right now are the Joy Fellowship Church on 7th Street, which would house primarily families. We do not have any shelters, to my knowledge, that do families right now, except for those that are in domestic violence. So this will be a pretty unique thing and something that we are seeing is needed. The other potential shelter, we're working with the Mental Health Association and Community Helping Hands to have a space at the Gateway Center on Water Street, which would house around 20 beds. The Joy Fellowship Church would house around 7 to 8 beds, so just under 30 beds total for the winter. We are, like I said, working with the state. We also have federal funding through HUD that we received that will help us jumpstart those shelters. We have the emergency beds in hand. We just need final approval from New York State and the county to move forward. So I want to thank everyone who was a part of that, thank all the resource providers. One of this unique part of it is that we will have those homelessness providers, Medicaid providers, and others. They have a site to go to where people are at so that we can get them automatically enrolled for services and get them the places they need, but more importantly, build relationships with folks, which is needed in these situations. So we are working through that process right now. There's still questions to be answered, but those 2 shelters are starting to kind of communicate with each other and understand what is needed to get those up and running. We're hoping to get those before the snow flew, but we are hopeful to have those open before Thanksgiving. That's what we're aiming at, and that's when we think the state will approve everything by.
And would those be staffed 24 hours a day? I'm just thinking the officers on the road, you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and they run into someone in need. Are they gonna have a contact number?
Yep. Both locations will have staff, and they'll communicate with each other too, so in case there's overflow. The only issue is with the Joy Fellowship Church, they can either do families one night or they can do singles. So it's either or for that one. They're looking at primarily singles. They are able to do co-ed singles at the Water Street location, which is different than any other shelter that we currently have. So this would house a population that we technically do not have housing for, that we would normally put up in motels and hotels during the normal Code Blue year. So this will also be somewhat of a first for the county. They don't have similar emergency shelters. They mostly use other providers, such as hotels, motels, during the Code Blue year. So this is the first for the county as well.
I'm grateful to hear that they're doing this,
Yeah.
but if the families go into Joy Fellowship, and so they're there for the night, then what do they do during the day?
So, answer both of your questions. This is not a 24/7 operation. Code Blue only covers the evening time frame. So individuals do have to leave during the morning. They can stay. Some of the churches have already offered to do breakfast, kind of worship services and other things. Resource providers have also talked about that should folks want to stay in certain locations. But technically it's just for overnight sheltering. Yeah, so families would have to go somewhere else during the day.
It's similar to shelter at First Street. They have to leave in the morning as well. They can't stay inside all day.
And I'm just thinking about families with kids that are not in school yet,
Sure.
you know, you've got toddlers and infants.
Yeah, we're in a bit of uncharted territory, so we're trying to figure that out, but it is a question that has come up with the different resource providers, and some of them have said there's other opportunities that they can work with those families to try to figure out. I mean, ultimately the goal would be to find more stable housing for all of the folks that are there, but in the meantime, we're really just worried about people going into abandoned buildings, us finding people, God forbid, dead on the street because of the cold. We're trying to avoid that this year with the number of folks living on the streets.
Mr. Mayor, have you ever looked at the armory?
We have. Unfortunately, the Armory has abatement issues, and the state has not scheduled that to, I don't know if it was asbestos or lead, it was one of the two, but they've closed it for quite a period of time because of that. People have asked for the Armory for various things, and so that was the challenge. Okay, any other questions on that? Thank you all for your support. We're trying very hard to find a good solution, and it takes the whole community to try to figure this out. So we very much appreciate all the work you've been doing and giving us ideas and thoughts and plans to try to get this to fruition, as well as a lot of late nights for our team and for other teams to try to put these things together. Just want to also give you guys an update because you'd asked last time about leaf pickup. They're still picking up leaves, but they are, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, ahead of schedule for leaf pickup this year. We've had some pretty nice weather for the most part, and so it's allowed us to pick up the majority of leaves and hopefully get another round, another pass throughout the city. Correct? Yeah, that's correct. The other thing that I wanted to note, hand in hand with leaves, is to remind folks, please make sure you're blocking the storm sewers if you do have leaves. I'm sorry? Not blocking. Not blocking the storm sewers, yes. Please do not put your leaves in the storm sewers. So wanted to also just thank all of you as council members as well as all of our staff for being so responsive to areas of flooding across the city. As you all know, we received a tremendous amount of rain. We continue to do so in various areas. And we had crews out that evening from the fire department. We had our DPW crews, our police crews blocking off streets. Many of you have seen we did use our emergency alert system to let folks know when there were flooding in certain areas, which we closed off. And I do want to thank all of the council members who were responsive to me that evening, letting me know what they saw and areas that we could go to and check for additional flooding. So we appreciate that. Hopefully we've addressed all the constituent concerns that you all had, that you sent to me that evening. But I do want to just thank you all and thank all of our teams for trying to address it. And we'll continue to address, and I know this is Councilwoman Karuba's constant issue, and I very much appreciate it, stormwater management across the city. And you'll be happy to know there are several federal grants that we are applying to help us deal with stormwater management.
After watching the fire department on the scene multiple times,
Yep.
and they were there from 9 o'clock till after midnight, helping a homeowner with a flooded basement. And I can't thank them enough. It was fortunately not a very cold night, but we were actually, my husband and I, helping a neighbor trying to clear the street of leaves to get the water to drain to the stormwater drain. So it was not a fun evening for most of the people in that neighborhood. But I know it was worse in other areas, but I go back and thank you for looking at this again, because I think we need to do more on infrastructure, and I know it's not just the area where I live. When I heard there were other streets that were flooded and had to be closed, that was not my street, but it's significant and it's getting worse, and I know we need to do more. And, you know, as you say, I actually was picking up leaves on Thursday to help another neighbor, which actually probably helped some of the people on my street by clearing it so that it didn't block the drain. But we all have to look at this. It's going to continue to be a problem throughout the city. And we have an aging infrastructure, and some of the money that we have left, we really need to consider how we're going to use it to deal with infrastructure, such as you described. This is twice in a year now.
I know.
This was July, August. We're not through 2022 yet.
I agree. It's been a challenge. So thank you all for that, and I certainly want to thank you all for helping us get out those emergency alerts, and especially want to thank the one woman who responded to our text messages to tell her son how to avoid all the flooded roads, because we do get the responses. If you respond to the text message, our mayor's office staff gets those responses, and we try to let folks know you're texting the wrong number. Very much appreciated her. Other than that, I just have one other thing for you all. You may have gotten an email from Michaela in my office. National Fuel provided winterization kits. So before you all leave, please feel free to take some. We have extras if you want to give those to various constituents. They provide, some of the insulation foam and weather strips, things like that. We're able to get several more. So if you do want us to get you an order for your constituents, they're great kits. We'll give it to you right when you leave, and helps you just try to keep the warm air in and not escape into the cold for this winter.
How many do you have?
They sent us, I think, 22, and if we wanted more, just to let us know. So it's 22, is it?
Think so.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. We got a kit for all of you, and if you want extras, let us know, and we'll get those specifically ordered, and they'll deliver up to us.
I have one neighbor for sure. That would be
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. Just let Michaela know how many you need, and we'll get those to you, and you're welcome to give those out in your neighborhoods and to your constituents. Okay. Other than that, I have no other updates.
Anything else?
I think there's one thing for example.
From Crystal.
Yep, from Ben.
Under
Specific personnel.
personnel?
Yes.
We have a need for an executive session for personnel. Any action will be taken there?
Should be quick.
Got a motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll go to executive session.